Han Yuna stood at the window of her small apartment on the space station and watched the stars. She had lived on Harmony's Rest for 3 years now. The station floated between worlds, a place where different species came to talk and trade and solve their problems without fighting. Yuna worked as a cultural liaison. Her job was to help aliens understand humans and help humans understand aliens. She was good at it. Everyone said so. But tonight, she did not feel good at anything. On the table behind her sat a letter. She did not need to read it again. She had already read it 5 times. The words were burned into her mind. We regret to inform you that your application for adoption has been denied. Due to current population priorities, couples without genetic compatibility markers are not eligible at this time. 3 times she had applied. 3 times they had said no. Yuna was 38 years old. She had wanted to be a mother since she was a little girl. She remembered playing with dolls, pretending to feed them, pretending to sing them to sleep. When she grew up and married Park Tae-ho, they had tried for years to have a baby. They went to doctors. They tried treatments. Nothing worked. Her body simply could not do what she wanted it to do. It's not your fault, Tae-ho always told her. He was a kind man, a scientist who studied alien plants and animals. He loved her. She knew that. But she also saw the sadness in his eyes when they walked past the station's family quarters and heard children laughing. The door opened behind her. Tae-ho came in, still wearing his lab coat. He saw the letter on the table and his face fell. Again? He asked softly. Yuna nodded. She did not trust her voice. Tae-ho crossed the room and put his arms around her. They stood together in silence, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there were billions of children on hundreds of worlds, and none of them were hers. Maybe, Tae-ho said carefully, we could think about other options. Like what? Some alien species allow cross-species adoption. The Morvani only adopt within their own clans. I checked. Yuna had checked everything. She had spent countless nights reading about adoption laws across the galaxy. Most species kept their children close. They did not share them with outsiders, especially not with humans. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only been part of the Galactic Concord for 200 years. Other species respected them as diplomats and peacemakers, but they did not fully trust them yet. Humans were too emotional, they said, too unpredictable, too young. Yuna pulled away from Tae-ho and wiped her eyes. I need to get back to work, she said. I have a meeting with the Volanthi delegation tomorrow. I should prepare. Yuna, I'm fine. She was not fine, but she had learned to push her feelings down and keep moving. It was the only way she knew how to survive. The next day, Yuna sat in her office reviewing files on the Volanthi. They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy, with silver skin and large dark eyes. They were telepaths, able to share thoughts and feelings through mental bonds. They were proud and powerful, and they did not like humans very much. The Volanthi thought humans were too loud, too messy, too full of feelings they could not control. Yuna would have to be very careful in the meeting. One wrong word could create a diplomatic incident. Her communicator buzzed. It was Commander Kim Do-hyun, the station's leader. Yuna, we have an emergency. A Volanthi ship just came out of hyperspace. It's badly damaged. They're requesting immediate assistance. Yuna was already on her feet. I'm on my way. She ran through the station's corridors, her heart pounding. When she reached the docking bay, she saw chaos. Medical teams rushed around. Alarms flashed. Through the airlock window, she could see the Volanthi ship. It was burning. What happened? She asked Commander Do-hyun. We don't know yet. Pirates, maybe, or an engine failure. The ship was carrying members of the royal family. Yuna felt cold. The Volanthi royal family was sacred to their people. If anyone important had died, there would be consequences. The airlock opened. Medical teams rushed in. Yuna followed, ready to translate, ready to help however she could. The inside of the ship was filled with smoke. Bodies lay on the floor, Valanthe with silver skin now stained with blood. Yuna had seen death before, but this was different. These were people who had been alive just hours ago, traveling through space, thinking about their futures. "Is anyone alive?" someone shouted. "Here!" a medic called from the back of the ship. "I found a child!" Yuna pushed forward. In a small room, protected by emergency shields, lay a Valanthe girl. She was tiny, maybe 6 years old by Valanthe standards, which meant she was like a human toddler. Her silver skin was pale, and her dark eyes were closed. But she was breathing. "She's the only survivor," the medic said. "Everyone else is gone." Yuna knelt beside the child. She looked so small, so fragile. Around her neck was a pendant with the royal seal. This was not just any child. This was a princess. "We need to get her to medical immediately," Yuna said. They lifted the girl onto a stretcher. As they carried her out, the child's eyes opened. She looked around wildly, confused and afraid. She saw the dead bodies of her attendants. She began to shake. Without thinking, Yuna took the child's hand. "It's okay," she said softly. "You're safe now. I've got you." The girl looked at Yuna. Their eyes met. And then something happened that Yuna did not expect. She felt a presence in her mind. It was like a door opening, like warm light flooding into a dark room. The child's thoughts and feelings poured into her, fear and grief and desperate loneliness. And underneath it all, a single need that burned like fire. The need for a mother. Yuna gasped. The connection was overwhelming. She could feel everything the child felt. She could feel her own heart responding, reaching out, wrapping around this little girl like a protective shield. The medical team was shouting something, but Yuna could not hear them. All she could hear was the child's voice in her mind, small and scared and full of hope. "Please," the child whispered through the bond. "Please don't leave me." "I won't," Yuna whispered back. "I promise." She did not know what she was promising. She did not understand what had just happened. All she knew was that something had changed, something that could never be undone. The child closed her eyes and fell unconscious, but the bond remained. Yuna could still feel her, like a second heartbeat inside her chest. Commander Do-hyun appeared beside her. "Yuna, are you all right? What happened?" Yuna looked at him. Her hands were shaking. Her whole world had just shifted on its axis. "I don't know," she said, "but I think this child just chose me to be her mother." The medical bay was quiet, except for the soft beeping of machines. Yuna sat beside the small bed where the Valanthe child slept. She had not moved in 6 hours. She could not. Every time she tried to leave the room, she felt a pull in her chest, and the child would cry out in her sleep. Tai-ho brought her coffee. He sat down beside her and looked at the sleeping girl. "Her name is Seraphine," he said, "fourth in line to the Valanthe throne. Her mother was Princess Valeth, who died in the attack. Her father died 2 years ago. She has no siblings." "She has no one," Yuna whispered. "She has you." Tai-ho put his hand on hers. "The doctors explained it to me. Valanthe children form a parental bond once in their lives, usually with their mother. It's a telepathic connection that cannot be broken. Seraphine's mother died, and in her fear and grief, she reached out for someone to hold on to. She found you." Yuna looked at the child's peaceful face. Through the bond, she could feel Seraphine's dreams. They were confused and sad, full of images of fire and screaming and loss. But there was also something else now, a feeling of safety, a feeling of home. "What does this mean?" Yuna asked. "What happens now?" Before Tai-ho could answer, the door opened. Commander Do-hyun walked in, and his face was grim. "We have a problem," he said. The Velanthi government has responded. They're sending a ship to collect the princess, and they are not happy. On the screen in the commander's office, a Velanthi face appeared. He had silver skin like all his kind, but his eyes were cold and hard. This was High Regent Velos, Seraphine's uncle, the man now ruling the empire, while the old emperor remained in seclusion. "This is an outrage," Velos said. His voice was like ice. "A human has contaminated a royal child with her primitive emotions. The princess must be returned immediately." "With respect," Yuna said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I did not choose this. The bond happened on its own." Seraphine reached out to me. "The child was traumatized. She did not know what she was doing. The bond can be managed with medication. Our doctors will suppress it until a proper Velanthi guardian can be found." Yuna felt a cold shock through the bond. Seraphine was awake now and listening through Yuna's mind. The child was terrified. "What does this medication do?" Yuna asked. "That is not your concern." "It is my concern. I can feel her fear right now. She's afraid of what you're suggesting." Velos's eyes narrowed. "You dare to speak for a Velanthi princess. You are nothing. You are a human, a species that has been in space for barely 2 centuries. You do not understand our ways." "Then help me understand. What will the medication do to her?" Velos was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "It will dull the bond. It will allow her to function without a parent." "Will it hurt her?" Again, silence. That was all the answer Yuna needed. "I won't let you hurt her," Yuna said. "You have no choice. She is Velanthi property. She belongs to the Empire. She is not property. She is a child." Velos leaned forward, and his voice became dangerous. "Listen to me carefully, human. You will return the princess within 72 hours, or we will come and take her. And if anyone tries to stop us, it will be considered an act of war." The screen went dark. Commander Do-hyun let out a long breath. "Well," he said, "that went badly." "He can't do this," Yuna said. "He can't threaten war over a child." "He can, and he will. The Velanthi are proud. They see this as a humiliation, a human bonding with their princess. They will do anything to erase it." "Even if it kills her?" Do-hyun looked at her with sad eyes. "Yuna, I've been in this job for 30 years. I've seen species do terrible things to protect their pride. The Velanthi are no different." That night, Yuna could not sleep. She lay in bed beside Taiho, but her mind was with Seraphine in the medical bay. She could feel the child's restless dreams, her confusion, her fear. "There has to be another way," Yuna whispered. Taiho sat up. "Maybe there is. I've been researching Velanthi history. Their civilization is very old, and they have strict rules about everything. But rules can have exceptions." "What do you mean?" "I mean that if we can find a legal argument, a precedent, something in their own laws that protects Seraphine's bond, then maybe we can fight this." "How do we find that?" Taiho smiled grimly. "I'll hack into their archives. It's not exactly legal, but neither is threatening to kill a child with medication." For the next 2 days, Taiho worked without rest. He searched through thousands of years of Velanthi records, looking for anything that could help. Meanwhile, Yuna stayed with Seraphine. She talked to her, sang to her, held her hand. The child was learning human words quickly, but she preferred to communicate through the bond. It was easier. It was more honest. "Mother," Seraphine said one morning. It was her first spoken word in human standard. Yuna felt tears in her eyes. "Yes, little one, I'm here. Bad man wants to take me away. I know, but I won't let him." "Promise?" Yuna held her tight. "I promise." She meant it. She had never meant anything more in her life. This child had chosen her. Against all odds, against all logic, a princess from an alien empire had looked into her heart and decided that Yuna was her mother. and Yuna would not betray that trust. On the third day, Taiho burst into the medical bay. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but he was smiling. "I found it," he said. "I found what we need." "What is it?" "Valanthi children who lose their parental bond almost never survive to adulthood. Their minds cannot develop properly without it. The medication Velos wants to use doesn't just dull the bond. It destroys it slowly. He's not trying to save Seraphine. He's trying to quietly get rid of her so he can move up in the line of succession." Yuna felt sick. He would kill his own niece for power? It looks that way. But now we have proof. If we broadcast this to the Galactic Concord, everyone will see what he's really doing. This isn't a rescue. It's murder. They sent the information to every news channel, every government, every diplomatic office in the galaxy. Within hours, the story spread everywhere. The reaction was immediate and powerful. Other species were shocked and angry. They began to put pressure on the Valanthi. They demanded that Seraphine be allowed to stay with her bonded parent. But Velos did not back down. He called the information lies and propaganda. He sent his warships toward the station, ready to take the child by force. Yuna stood at the window of the medical bay, holding Seraphine in her arms. Outside, she could see the distant lights of the Valanthi fleet. "They're coming," she whispered. Seraphine held her tighter. "I don't want to go with them." "You won't. I'll find a way." But Yuna did not know if she could keep that promise. The ships were getting closer. Time was running out, and she was just one human woman against an empire. Then her communicator buzzed. It was Commander Do-hyun. "Yuna," he said, "Admiral Choi is here with the Earth Fleet. She wants to talk to you." Yuna took a deep breath. Maybe, just maybe, she was not as alone as she thought. Admiral Choi Yunji was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had commanded Earth's defensive fleet for 20 years and had seen more battles than she cared to remember. Now she stood in Commander Do-hyun's office, studying the tactical display that showed the Valanthi warships approaching the station. 12 heavy cruisers," she said calmly. 40 fighter escorts. They're not playing around." Yuna stood beside her, holding Seraphine's hand. The child was quiet but alert, watching everything with her large, dark eyes. "Can you stop them?" Yuna asked. Admiral Choi looked at her. "I can slow them down, but I cannot defeat them. The Valanthi fleet is larger and more powerful than ours. If this becomes a shooting war, we will lose." "Then what do? We buy time. We position ourselves between their ships and the station. We make them think twice about firing, and we hope that diplomacy works before the shooting starts." Commander Do-hyun spoke up. "Earth's government is pressuring us to hand over the child. They say she's not worth a war." Yuna felt anger rise in her chest. "She's a person, not a bargaining chip." "I know, but governments don't think that way. They think about numbers, casualties, strategic interests." He paused. "They're offering you compensation. Money, honors, anything you want. All you have to do is give up the girl." Yuna looked down at Seraphine. The child looked back at her, and through the bond, Yuna felt her trust, her hope, her fear of being abandoned. How could she betray that? How could anyone? "No," Yuna said, "I won't do it." Admiral Choi smiled slightly. "Good. I was hoping you'd say that. You support me?" "I've spent my whole life following orders. Most of the time, that's the right thing to do, but sometimes you have to stand up for what's right, even if it costs you everything." She looked at Seraphine. "This child chose you. That means something. I'm not going to let some cold-hearted politician throw that away." Yuna felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive the next few hours." The Earth fleet moved into position, forming a barrier between the station and the approaching Valanthi ships. It was not an aggressive formation, but a protective one. A message that said, "We will not attack you, but we will not let you pass." On the station, people waited and watched. Some were afraid, some were angry, some were proud. Yuna saw all of these emotions in the faces around her as she walked through the corridors with Seraphine. A young woman approached her. She had dark hair and kind eyes, and she wore the uniform of a diplomatic officer. Her name tag said Kang Jisoo. "Ma'am," she said, "I want you to know that I think you're doing the right thing." "Thank you," Yuna said. "But I'm not sure it matters what's right anymore. It always matters." Jisoo knelt down to look at Seraphine. "Hello, little one. My name is Jisoo. I'm going to help your mother." Seraphine studied her carefully, then nodded. Through the bond, Yuna felt the child's approval. Seraphine was a good judge of character. "What can you do?" Yuna asked. "I've been working on a legal argument. The Galactic Concord has rules about the rights of children. If we can prove that sending Seraphine back to Velos would harm her, we might be able to get protection from the Concord itself. Will that stop the Valanthi? Maybe. Maybe not. But it will make them think." They went to the communications center and prepared a broadcast. Jisoo explained the legal arguments while Yuna spoke from the heart. She talked about what she felt through the bond. She talked about Seraphine's nightmares, her fears, her small moments of joy when she felt safe. She talked about what it meant to be a mother. "I know I'm not Valanthi," Yuna said to the camera. "I know I don't have silver skin or telepathic powers, but I love this child. I would die for her, and I am asking the galaxy to help me protect her." The broadcast went out to every ship, every station, every planet. Millions of beings watched and listened. And then they began to respond. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. Support, encouragement, offers of help. Other species that had their own traditions of adoption and family saw what was happening and felt it was wrong. They put pressure on their governments. They demanded action. The Valanthi fleet stopped. On the command deck of the lead cruiser, High Regent Velos stared at the tactical display. He had expected this to be easy. He had expected the humans to surrender. Instead, they were standing firm, and the whole galaxy was watching. "Sir," one of his officers said, "we're receiving protests from multiple Concord members. They're threatening sanctions if we attack." Velos slammed his fist on the console. "Sanctions? For rescuing our own princess? They don't see it that way, sir. They see us as aggressors." Velos was furious. These humans had turned the galaxy against him with their emotional manipulation. They had made him look like a monster when he was only trying to protect Valanthi honor. "Prepare to fire," he said. "We will take the princess by force. Sir, if we fire on a civilian station, we will be condemned by every species in the Concord. It could start a war we cannot win." Velos hesitated. He was angry enough to destroy everything in front of him, but he was not stupid. A war with the entire Concord would be disastrous. He needed another way. On the station, Yuna felt the tension through Seraphine. The child was connected to her own people in some faint way, and she could sense their anger, their confusion, their fear. "They're going to attack," Seraphine whispered. "Maybe," Yuna said, "but we're not going to give up. What can we do?" Yuna thought about it. What could they do? They were trapped on a station, surrounded by warships, with nothing but words and feelings as weapons. And then she had an idea. "Seraphine," she said, "when you reached out to me, you shared your feelings. You made me understand what you were going through. Can you do that again? Can you share your feelings with everyone?" Seraphine looked uncertain. "Everyone?" "Everyone on the ships. Every Valanthi out there. Let them feel what you feel. Let them know that you're not a symbol or a prize. You're a child who needs her mother." Seraphine was afraid. Yuna could feel it through the bond. Reaching out to so many minds was dangerous and exhausting. But the child was brave. She had already lost everything once. She would not lose this. "Okay," Seraphine said. I'll try. She closed her eyes. Yuna held her hands, and then Seraphine reached out with her mind, farther than she had ever reached before. On every ship in the Valanthi fleet, crew members stopped what they were doing. They felt something touching their minds, something gentle and sad and beautiful. They felt a child's love for her mother. They felt her fear of being taken away. They felt her desperate hope that someone would listen. Many of them had children of their own. Many of them had lost parents or siblings or friends. They understood what Seraphine was feeling because they had felt it themselves. On the command deck, High Regent Velos felt it too. For a moment, just a moment, he remembered what it was like to be a child. He remembered his own mother's voice, her hands, her warmth. Then he pushed the memory away. Ignore it, he ordered his crew. She's manipulating you. Prepare to— Sir, his officer said, multiple ships are standing down. Their crews are refusing to attack. Velos looked at the tactical display. Half his fleet had gone dark. Their weapons were powering down. Their crews were not following orders. He had lost. Through the bond, Yuna felt Seraphine's exhaustion. The child collapsed into her arms, but she was smiling. They heard me, she whispered. They felt it. Yuna held her tight and looked out at the silent ships. For the first time in days, she felt hope. But she knew this was not over. Velos would not give up so easily. He would find another way to get what he wanted, and when he did, Yuna would be ready. The Valanthi homeworld was beautiful and cold. Yuna saw it through the window of the shuttle as they descended through silver clouds. Great cities of crystal and metal spread across the surface, perfect and symmetrical, with no sign of the messiness that marked human worlds. Everything was controlled. Everything was in its place. Yuna held Seraphine's hand. The child was quiet, looking at the world where she had been born. Through the bond, Yuna felt her mixed emotions, sadness, fear, and a strange kind of longing for something she could not name. Taiho sat beside them. He had refused to let Yuna come alone. If you're going to face their tribunal, he had said, then I'm going to be there with you. Behind them sat No Mirai, a human scientist who studied alien minds. She had come to help Yuna understand Valanthi culture and prepare for what was ahead. She was calm and professional, but Yuna could see the worry in her eyes. Remember, Mirai said, the Valanthi value control above everything. They suppress their emotions because they believe feelings are dangerous. They will see your love for Seraphine as weakness. Then I'll show them they're wrong, Yuna said. It's not that simple. You cannot argue with them the way you would argue with humans. You have to speak their language. You have to make them see that emotion is not chaos. It is connection. The shuttle landed at the Imperial Palace, a massive structure of silver and glass that rose into the sky like a frozen flame. Guards in ceremonial armor escorted them inside. Everywhere Yuna looked, she saw Valanthi with cold, expressionless faces. They stared at her with curiosity and disgust. A human, walking in their sacred halls. It was an insult. But Yuna walked with her head high. She was not here to apologize. She was here to fight. The tribunal was held in a great hall with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. Hundreds of Valanthi sat in rows, watching in silence. At the front of the hall was a raised platform where 5 judges sat in robes of black and silver. And standing before them, waiting with a cold smile, was High Regent Velos. Han Yuna, the chief judge said, you are charged with illegally bonding with a child of the Valanthi royal family. How do you answer? Yuna stepped forward. I answer that the bond was not my choice. It was Seraphine's choice, and it was made out of love and need, not crime. Love is not a legal argument, Velos said. Our laws are clear. A Valanthi child must be raised by Valanthi parents. The bond must be broken and given to a proper guardian. even if it kills her? The hall went silent. Yuna felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on her. The information you spread was propaganda, Velos said. Our medical techniques are safe. Then why do Valanthi children who lose their bonds almost never survive to adulthood? Why does your own history show that bond breaking leads to madness and death? Yuna looked at the judges. I am not a scientist, but my husband is. He searched your records. He found the truth you try to hide. The bond is not just a connection. It is survival. Without it, a child's mind cannot grow. Velos's face twisted with anger. You have no right to speak of our ways. You are an outsider. You do not understand our culture. Then help me understand. Yuna turned to face the whole hall. I have felt your culture through Seraphine's mind. I have felt your history, your pride, your pain. I know that you suppress your emotions because you are afraid of them. You think feelings are dangerous, that they will destroy you if you let them free. She paused. But I have also felt your love. It is still there, buried deep. You have not destroyed it. You have only hidden it. No one spoke. No one moved. Seraphine did not choose me because I am human, Yuna continued. She chose me because I was open. Because I let her feel what I feel. Because I was not afraid to love her. She looked at the judges. Is that really so terrible? Is love really something to fear? Velos stepped forward. Enough of this emotional manipulation. The law is the law. The bond must be transferred to a Valanthi guardian. That is my ruling as High Regent. But it is not the Emperor's ruling. Everyone turned. At the back of the hall, a door had opened. An old Valanthi walked slowly into the room, supported by attendants. His silver skin was pale and thin, and his eyes were clouded with age. But there was power in him still, ancient and deep. Emperor Solanthus had come. The hall fell to its knees. Even Velos bowed, though his face was dark with anger. Yuna remained standing, unsure what to do. Then Seraphine let go of her hand and walked toward the Emperor. "Grandfather," she said. The Emperor looked at her. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then he held out his arms, and Seraphine ran to him. Yuna felt what happened next through the bond. Seraphine shared with her grandfather everything she had experienced, the fear, the loss, the loneliness. And then the moment when Yuna had taken her hand and said, I've got you, the safety, the love, the feeling of finally being home. The Emperor closed his eyes. A tear ran down his silver face. The hall gasped. Valanthi did not cry. They did not show emotion, but here was their Emperor, the oldest and most powerful of them all, weeping like a child. How long, the Emperor said softly, have we hidden from ourselves? How long have we pretended that we do not feel? He looked at Yuna. This human woman has given my granddaughter something we have forgotten how to give. She has given her love without fear. She has given her a home. My Emperor, Velos said, you cannot, I can, and I will. The Emperor's voice was stronger now. The bond between Seraphine and Han Yuna is recognized by the throne. They are mother and daughter in all ways that matter. Any attempt to break this bond will be considered treason. Velos stared at him. You are destroying our traditions. No, I am remembering them. Our traditions were never about suppressing love. They were about controlling ourselves so we could love better. He looked at Yuna. You have shown us what we have lost. Perhaps, with time, you can help us find it again. Yuna felt tears on her own face. She went to the Emperor and bowed. Thank you, she said. Do not thank me. Raise my granddaughter well. Teach her to feel without fear, and perhaps one day she will teach us. That night, Yuna and Seraphine stood on a balcony of the palace, looking out at the city. The stars were different here, but the sky was just as vast. "Are we going home?" Seraphine asked. Yuna smiled. "Yes, we're going home. Will they let us go?" "Yes, the Emperor made his ruling. It's over." Seraphine was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Uncle Velos is angry." Yuna felt it too through the bond. Velos's rage was like a cold fire in the distance. He had been humiliated in front of the entire empire. He would not forget that. "I know," Yuna said, "but we'll be okay. We have each other." Seraphine held her hand. "And we have Father." Yuna felt her heart warm. Seraphine had started calling Taiho Father a few days ago. He had cried when he heard it. "Yes," Yuna said, "we have Father. We have a family." They stood together under the alien stars, mother and daughter, and for the first time, Yuna felt complete. But in another part of the palace, Velos was meeting with his loyal officers, planning his next move. The tribunal was lost, but the game was not over. He would find a way to take back what was his, and when he did, the human woman would pay. The transport ship back to Earth was quiet. Yuna sat in their small cabin with Seraphine sleeping in her lap and Taiho beside her, and she finally let herself breathe. It was over. They had won. The Emperor had ruled in their favor, and no one could take Seraphine away now. But even as she relaxed, she felt a small warning through the bond. Seraphine was dreaming, and her dreams were troubled. She saw her uncle's face, cold and angry. She saw soldiers moving in shadow. She felt danger. Yuna held her tighter. "It's just a dream," she whispered. "We're safe now." 2 days later, they arrived at Earth. The welcome was overwhelming. Thousands of people had gathered at the spaceport to see them. News drones flew overhead, broadcasting their arrival across the planet and beyond. Yuna was not used to so much attention. She just wanted to take her family home. But there were speeches to give and hands to shake and interviews to do. Everyone wanted to hear the story of the human woman who had stood up to an empire for the sake of a child. Yuna told the story as simply as she could. She talked about the bond, about her love for Seraphine, about her hope that their two species could learn from each other. Through it all, Seraphine stayed close to her, holding her hand or sitting in her lap. The child was shy around crowds, but she was also curious. She watched the humans with her large, dark eyes, trying to understand their strange and noisy ways. "They're so loud," she said to Yuna through the bond. "Yes," Yuna agreed. "We're very loud, but most of us mean well." When the ceremonies were finally over, they went to their new home. It was a small house in a quiet town by the sea. Taiho had found it while they were away. He thought Seraphine would like the water, and he was right. The first time she saw the ocean, she stood on the beach for an hour, feeling the waves through her feet and the salt wind on her face. "It's beautiful," she said. "It's yours," Yuna told her. "This is your home now." They settled into a routine. Taiho went back to his research, studying alien ecosystems. Yuna started working from home, advising the government on Valanthi culture. And Seraphine went to school, where she learned to read and write and make friends with human children who were scared of her at first, but soon discovered she was just a kid like them. Months passed. Seraphine grew taller and stronger. She learned to control her telepathy better, to shield her thoughts when she wanted privacy. But she always kept the bond with Yuna open. It was their connection, their special language, their way of always knowing that the other was okay. One night, Yuna woke to find Seraphine standing by the window, looking at the stars. "What's wrong?" Yuna asked. "Something's happening," Seraphine said. "On the homeworld. I can feel it." Yuna felt it too, faintly. A disturbance, like a storm on the edge of the horizon. The next morning, they got the news. High Regent Velos had attempted a coup. He had tried to seize the throne from Emperor Salanthus, claiming that the old man was too weak and too corrupted by human influence to rule. But he had failed. His own officers had turned against him. They had felt Seraphine's broadcast months ago, and it had changed them. They did not want to follow a man who had hurt a child for power. Velos was arrested, the Emperor was safe, and to Yuna's surprise, she was invited back to the Volanthi homeworld for a ceremony. "The Emperor wants to honor you," the message said. "You have done more for our people than you know." They returned to the Silver City, and this time the mood was different. People looked at Yuna with respect instead of disgust. They bowed to Seraphine as she passed. Something had shifted in the Volanthi culture, something deep and important. At the ceremony, Emperor Salanthus made an announcement. He was beginning reforms that would allow Volanthi to explore their emotions instead of suppressing them. Schools would teach children how to feel without fear. Families would be encouraged to bond openly. The old ways of cold control were ending. "We have hidden from ourselves for too long," the Emperor said. "We thought that emotions made us weak. But this human woman showed us the truth. Emotions make us strong. They connect us to each other. They give our lives meaning." He turned to Yuna and Seraphine. "You are the bridge between our peoples. Through you, we will learn to feel again. And perhaps in time, we will teach you something too." Yuna bowed. "I would like that," she said. Years passed. Seraphine grew from a child into a young woman. She was tall and graceful, with her mother's silver skin and her father's curious mind. She spoke 3 languages and had friends on a dozen worlds. And when she was old enough, she chose her path. She became an ambassador. On the day of her first speech to the Galactic Conquered, Yuna and Taiho sat in the audience. Yuna's hair was gray now, and her hands were lined with age, but her eyes were still bright, and her heart was still full. Seraphine walked to the podium and looked out at the hundreds of beings gathered to hear her. She was not afraid. She had been trained for this moment, but more than that, she had been loved for it. "I was born a Volanthi princess," she began, "but I was raised by humans. Some people think that makes me less Volanthi. They think I have been contaminated by human emotion, human chaos, human weakness." She paused. "They are wrong." The hall was silent. "Humans feel everything," Seraphine continued. "They feel joy and pain and fear and love, and they do not hide from any of it. They let their emotions move through them like water through a river. And that is not weakness. That is strength." She looked at her parents in the audience. "My mother found me when I was lost and alone. She took my hand and told me I was safe. She did not care that I was alien, that I was different, that I was afraid. She loved me anyway. She loved me because I needed it, and in doing so, she saved my life." Yuna felt tears on her cheeks. Through the bond, she felt Seraphine's love, warm and steady and true. "This is humanity's gift to the galaxy," Seraphine said. "Not their technology, not their ships, not their weapons. Their ability to love without condition, their willingness to open their hearts even when it hurts, their refusal to let fear stop them from connecting with others." She smiled. "I am proud to be the daughter of humans, and I hope that in time, every species in the galaxy will learn what they have taught me." The hall exploded in applause. Beings from 100 worlds stood and cheered. And in the middle of it all, Yuna sat quietly, holding Taiho's hand. "She did it," Taiho whispered. Yuna nodded. She could not speak. She was too happy. After the speech, Seraphine found them in the crowd. She hugged Yuna tight, and for a moment, they were back on that burning ship, a frightened child reaching out for someone to hold on to. "Thank you," Seraphine said. "For what?" "For everything. For being my mother. For teaching me how to love." Yuna held her daughter's face in her hands. "You taught me too," she said. "You taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about choice. It's about showing up for each other every day, no matter what." Through the bond, Seraphine replied with a thought she had shared many years ago, in a different time, in a different place. "You had other plans. The universe just listened." Yuna laughed. "Maybe we both did." They walked out of the hall together, mother and daughter, into a galaxy that was a little brighter, a little kinder, a little more connected than it had been before. And far away on a small blue planet by a quiet sea, a house waited for them. Home.